The 4-1 Seahawks head to Cleveland to take on the Browns at 1 Eastern. This is week 6. The Seahawks have yet to win in Cleveland since 2001, but the Browns will have to find a way to stop Russell Wilson, who has been playing lights out. Just how lights out has he been? He set the franchise record for completion percentage, pass yards, yards per attempt, and pass touchdowns through the first 5 games of this season. And his 12 touchdowns are the most among quarterbacks who have yet to throw an interception. There is also the old adage, taking lemons, making lemonade. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect for Russell Wilson to be productive, and that's what we've seen this season. Botched plays, things go wrong, and then Russell Wilson pick up the slack.
I think he's the greatest quarterback ever of taking a negative play and turning it into like a massive gain. It's a change of yardage that is so big, where he can take something that probably was a 6 or 7 yard loss and then all of a sudden becomes a 15, 20 yard gain. And it's the improvisation of him doing that stuff that is really untasked or unmatched in the NFL.
All right. Do we have a tape? We have a tape.
We do have
We're going to show you.
Okay.
We have a tape.
Tape, roll.
Roll that video tape.
Well, this is from Thursday Night Football. Like, listen, I can break down exactly what happens here, but just his ability to, again, this is a 15-yard loss potentially, rolling to his left and then finally delivering the ball. And we always hear the phrase of throw where only your guy can catch it. He did this with Tyler Lockett here. These are these special plays that go from 15-yard losses to all of a sudden 18-yard touchdown passes.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was ridiculous.
There's not a lot of guys that we've ever seen do it down in the red zone. Listen, it's 4th and goal at the end of the game. You can't just, hey, throw the ball away here if no one's open and we can kick. This is a mandatory touchdown. The ability to get squeezed on both sides of him, but his just natural athleticism or instinct to get skinny, dip down, jump over, and then the threat of him being a playmaker, get that ball up over defenders for a game-winning touchdown pass. But here's the thing. We don't talk enough about how smart Russell Wilson is. I want to go back to a 3rd and 6 early in the game. He sees both these defensive tackles wide. They're on the guard's outside shoulders. There's some space in between there. Russell realizes that from tape study. He makes a check on 3rd and 6 that they want to trap. They're going to block down, pull a guard, and take advantage of all that space that was left there by those wide tackles. Russell Wilson is famous for saying the separation is in the preparation. That look that we saw in that play that he checked was the same look that Cleveland got by the Rams on Sunday Night Football the week before. He just realized it and took it and used it to their advantage.
I like that. Separation and the preparation makes a lot of sense. On the other side of the field will be Baker Mayfield. Let's just recap his week, if you will. On Monday, he completed a career-low 36% of his passes, his worst loss as a starter, falling to the 49ers 31-3. Adding insult to injury, there was Nick Bosa. 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. He celebrated by planting the imaginary flag. A little payback for Baker planting an OU flag at Ohio State. And finally, Richard Sherman came out yesterday and stated that Baker did not shake his hand prior to the game. We now know that to be a bit of a misconception.
You're coming back for another year doesn't mean you're going to pick up where you left off. Everything changes. Everything's different. So, Baker knows what he needs to work on. He's doing a good job working on it. He'll continue. Here's the key takeaway. Everybody here wants to win, and we really don't care how we do it. We just want to win. To do that, we've got to be more efficient, execute better, coach better. Everybody needs to do their job better, and everybody's taking ownership in that, and that's what I expect moving forward.
And new on NFL Live from Browns beat writer Mary Kay Cabot. This is Pete Carroll on Baker Mayfield. He's a dangerous football player, and he's got magic in him, and that's why he is who he is. I like that, of course. Pete Carroll giving his due to the Browns quarterback. Josina Anderson back with us. And, JoJo, you cover this team. I know you're plugged in there. What's the team's mindset? And by that, I mean Cleveland right now.
Well, first of all, they know that they got to clean up all the mistakes and the penalties. They know that Baker Mayfield has to do a much better job than what he's been doing. You were just pointing out some of the things that are better about Russell Wilson, even when the pocket is breaking down around him. That includes not falling back when the pocket is breaking down and stepping up in the pocket and getting rid of the ball a lot quicker, which is what was effective for him when they did beat the Baltimore Ravens. He wasn't holding on to the ball as much. And people obviously around the league are also noting that he's shading right a lot, and people are picking up on that trend. and just, doing a better job of hitting the receivers in the numbers when it's right in front of you and it's shorter than a 20-yard pass. So all of those things will help the offense to go. Now, we were talking about this in the green room, guys. I don't mind Baker Mayfield's moxie, okay? I like his confidence. I like his swag. I think that lifts all boats on the field. But then there's something also to be said for when you make certain comments or there's a perception about you around the league that you increase the pressure on yourself. And so you never want to be hurting yourself in that sense. So that's the difference, I think, that he needs to distinguish a little bit more.
I think that makes so much sense. You got to be who you are, Marcus, but you do put a bit of a bullseye on your back. If you're okay with that, that's one thing. But it does change a little bit, given your perception.
Look, having confidence is different than coming off as arrogant and as a guy that is really acting entitled for people to just bow down and respect you because you're Baker Mayfield. There's a difference in that. Like, no player, me as a defensive player, if Dan was my quarterback, if Dan not confident, I don't want Dan playing. Like, that's just really what it boils down to. But when you start to think about some of the things, I think my biggest gripe with Baker was other players' names coming out of his mouth. That issue right there is the one that rubbed me the wrong way.
You're talking about Duke Johnson.
With Duke Johnson in the contract situation, and obviously he talked about Daniel Jones and then tried to clarify. But when he's young, people have to remember Baker Mayfield is young. When you're this young in the league, you can't operate like you've given careers to guys, and we gonna do it this way. And his response to Hugh Jackson, like, dude, you just stepped on the NFL field. So what is happening now is maybe he didn't know that guys in the league would pay much attention to that. Well, obviously they have.
Well, he knows because he was interviewed by Keyshawn Johnson, I believe, on Sunday NFL Countdown, and he asked him about that question of, you having this mouth, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think he's trying to balance doing everything that he knows of what he was prior to coming in the NFL. He knows that this got him here. Right? So when you know you've done certain things for a certain amount of years and that's been infused in your play and that got you here, then where do you cut that off? And obviously the difference is that you're not playing with guys that are 17 or 18 or whatever, 19. Guys have 3 kids. Guys have mortgages. Guys have phone bills. Guys have light bills.
Somehow it turned right. This is a guy that was a walk-on. It was the underdog that made it. And that play, and then, so he achieved, right? So that's all good stuff. And somehow it became a negative story, maybe because so much hype this offseason. Maybe not matching up to the hype he got this offseason, all the commercials, all that kind of stuff. Maybe that's added to it because, to me, you love the guy. You love the fact that he's a competitive guy. You love that he's got fire in his belly. You love that he's overcome. He's been doubted and
celebrates with his teammates when they're scoring.
Yeah, so, I mean, he celebrates. He runs down the field. I mean, there are a lot of positives. So, to me, the story, it just has to flip. They just have to win so the story can flip.
Well, let's flip this narrative, if you will, and talk about what that offense needs to do on the field. And maybe it's not specific to Baker Mayfield. What does this Browns offense have to do to keep moving in the right direction?
Less pure drop back and more play action, more running game, all right, to give Baker a safer pocket off the play action where the defender has to come from playing run to then converting to pass rush as opposed to just pinning their ears back and going after him. I think he's a better player, and statistically I think it bears it out. He's a more productive player when they're running the ball and using play action, all right? When they drop him back, I don't think the line is good enough. The offensive linemen are good enough to just continue to play and protect him and keep him clean and allow him to do his thing. It breaks down.
I want to piggyback off that because I think it's important for people to understand that there's different variations of drop back pass and play action pass. Play action pass does not mean that you have to fake 1 foot to my right and I'm still setting up in the same spot that I would set up if it was just a drop back pass. The team who does it the best out of anyone in the last 15 years is New Orleans. They will change via the play action the throwing lane for Drew Brees. So they'll go play action wide and set him up outside of the tackle. Because imagine this. If you go tackle to tackle on the offensive line, if you measure it before the ball snap, it's really about like 6 yards wide, right? That's not a very big space for a guy to find throwing lanes. But once you spread the play action game out and you go move me 4 or 5 yards that way and then set me up behind that tackle, you've changed the 6-yard space to a 12-yard space. The throwing lanes that he'll be able to see from are double the size in comparison to the drop back game. So it's not just play action, it's all kinds of different play action to get the defense and the offense moving laterally so the spaces open up. And so that's why he'll drift less to his right, because he'll be able to see a little bit more. And I always go to this, like, it's a lot of this falls on coaching. Like, you've got to find out what your guy's not doing well and then help him do that less.
Absolutely.
And I would say widen the play action game to just be not just directly behind the center.
Translation, be more of a game manager, complete some balls, and be accurate and score. There you go.
There you go.
4 seconds.
Okay.
Way to go.
As we wrap it up,
Don't give me a bad dap.
new on NFL Live from our own field.